Here are the top stories for today, May 24, 2021. Ramping up vaccination, more than 4 million Filipinos have been inoculated against COVID-19 as the country continues to make progress in its fight against the pandemic. Reports of jabs and vaccination slots for sale are now under probe. The government warns that those behind these illegal activities will face the full extent of the law. The Philippine Statistics Authority warns establishments accept PHIL IDs in transactions or face penalties. And another chance at gold, a Filipino Taekwondo Jin clinches a spot to the Tokyo Olympics. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story this evening, the government is not taking lightly reports of vaccines and vaccine slots for sale in some areas. This as Metro Manila Development Authority Chair Benhur Abalos reiterates vaccination against COVID-19 is for free. In a Laging Handa briefing today, Abalos said he and his wife, Mandaluyong Mayor Menchie Abalos, are meeting with the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI regarding the issue. This as the vaccine for sale scheme was reportedly perpetrated in the cities of Mandaluyong and San Juan. Abalos expressed dismay over the issue, saying this act undermines the efforts of the government and other stakeholders in responding to the pandemic. He also warned that those behind the scheme may face charges such as estafa, direct bribery, and violation of bayanihan laws.
Kung totoo man ito, yung mga sangkot dito ay ating ipapakulong, iimbestigahan. At kung hindi naman totoo ito yung mga scammer para gumawa lamang ng pera, under pertinent law ng bayanihan law ay talagang madidimanda pa rin sila.
An official of the Department of Interior and Local Government, or DILG, is pushing for the investigation of the reported vaccine for a fee scam in the cities of Mandaluyong and San Juan. DILG Undersecretary and spokesperson Jonathan Malaya confirmed he received messages that the alleged scam artists are charging 12,000 pesos for a COVID-19 vaccine slot. A viral post showed that priority slots for vaccines are offered at a price by people with alleged connections with the local governments of Mandaluyong and San Juan. Citing a personal experience, Malaya said his name has been used in an illegal financial solicitation that scam artist said had his blessings. He said it is important to confirm if the alleged activity is true to eliminate fake news. The Philippine National Police and Mandaluyong and San Juan officials are also conducting their probe. For its part, the Department of Health said sanctions await those involved in the alleged illegal online selling of government-procured jabs in Mandaluyong and San Juan. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said all vaccines available in the Philippines are using emergency use authorization and cannot be sold commercially, more so because it is government procured. In separate statements, San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora and Mandaluyong Mayor Menchie Abalos confirmed that an investigation is underway. Zamora said whoever is claiming to have a contact within the city government to sell their vaccine slots is propagating a scam and must be reported immediately to the authorities. Abalos meanwhile warned that anyone caught selling vaccines or vaccine slots to the public will be charged in court. The Philippines ranked second among the countries in Southeast Asia in terms of administered COVID-19 vaccines. Data from Bloomberg and Foreign Service Post show that the country has administered a total of 4,097,425 doses since it started its COVID-19 vaccines rollout on March 1, 2021. The Philippines is second to Indonesia, which has so far administered over 24 million doses since January 13 this year. Meanwhile, the Philippines ranks 7th in terms of the total number of fully vaccinated individuals, 13th in Asia and 37th worldwide, both in terms of total doses of COVID-19 vaccines administered. The Interior Department also welcomes the increasing vaccine confidence among Filipinos. This, as the latest social weather stations show that more than half of adult Filipinos are willing to get the jabs. Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya attributed this to the tireless efforts of both the national and local governments, medical professionals, and other sectors to educate the public on the benefits of the jabs. This is also proven by the continuing increase in the country's daily vaccination average. He meanwhile urged LGUs to tap community-based groups to help in the vaccine information drive and find a way to help those who don't have access to internet sign up for vaccination. Meanwhile, the National Police is also joining efforts to boost vaccine confidence among Filipinos. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar ordered police stations to utilize their social media pages in disseminating information on the COVID-19 jabs. Police chiefs were also ordered to use Oplan Bandillo for the purpose. Under the said measure, police officers will use megaphones and speakers to communicate useful information on vaccines in their regular patrols, aside from reminding them to take precaution against crimes and follow the minimum health standards. The preference for a certain brand of vaccine is one of the factors fueling hesitancy among the public. But for an official of the Department of Health, while people have more confidence in a certain vaccine brand, having efficacy as the basis for hesitancy is very fluid. Speaking at a Laging Handa briefing on Saturday, Dr. Annalisa Ong Lim of the DOH Technical Advisory Group says there are various circumstances over which vaccine trials are done, making it difficult to compare one vaccine from another. She says these varying situations do not make a good basis for brand preference, adding that the data also varies as the number of people getting inoculated increases. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berjere meanwhile assured that all vaccine brands in the Philippines are safe and effective, have undergone rigid regulatory processes. Local government units were advised not to announce the brand of vaccines available to overcome brand preference. The DOH will also intensify its information drive to raise awareness on the government's vaccination campaign. The World Health Organization reported a drop in worldwide COVID-19 cases despite the total number reaching 165.7 million on Saturday. The WHO confirmed more than 607,000 new cases, which is down by 13,000 cases in comparison with the previous day. Coronavirus-related deaths increased by over 12,400 to surpass the 3.43 million mark. Southeast Asia region, where India is included by the WHO, accounted for more than 46% of new COVID-19 cases submitted to the WHO. Meanwhile, over 1.65 billion coronavirus vaccine shots have been given worldwide. Online portal Our World in data last Sunday showed China was the most vaccinated country with 497 million jabs, followed by the United States with almost 284 million and India with 190 million jabs. The US, India, and Brazil remain the worst-hit countries in terms of the number of infections and deaths. Here is the latest look at COVID-19 figures worldwide. Still to come, the Commission on Human Rights vows actions on the violations of the international humanitarian law by the communist movement. And the inclusion of BPO workers in the vaccination priority list is seen to boost economic recovery. Details ahead, the PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
President Rodrigo Duterte said the Philippines will not take sides in the competition between the United States and China. At the NIKKEI's Future of Asia conference last Friday, Duterte said the Philippines does not see the need to take sides in the ongoing geo-economic competition among the big powers. He, however, urged large countries not to pursue interests at the expense of smaller countries in plain defiance of international law. He also called for global cooperation in the fight against COVID-19, including equitable access to vaccines. Duterte also addressed the forum to seek investments in agriculture and digital economy as the administration aims to reverse a record 9.6% economic contraction last year. He also trumpeted the newly signed corporate recovery and tax incentives for enterprises or create law, which cuts corporate income taxes to 25% from 30%. The Commission on Human Rights has vowed to investigate over 1,500 atrocities and international humanitarian law violations committed by the CPP-NPA-NDF from 2010 to 2020. Brigadier General Jose Alejandro NIKKEI, director of the AFP Center for the Law on Armed Conflict, submitted a list of willful killings perpetrated by the CTG for the period. NTF-ELCAC spokesperson Undersecretary Severo Catura said the CTG may be compelled to indemnify victims of their human rights abuses and atrocities in the number of billions of dollars. NIKKEI and Catura claimed that they shall rather refer matters to the International Committee of the Red Cross and the UN Resident Coordinator and the Senior Human Rights Advisor in the Philippines. The AFP has consolidated 532 incidents of destruction of civilian-owned properties and a total of 289 incidents of willful killing by the CTGs. Meanwhile, Makabayan bloc members have not responded to the Philippine News Agency when sought for comments. The Philippine Statistics Authority reminded establishments to honor the PHIL IDs with thousands of national ID cards ready for delivery. Section 12 of the PhilSys Act states that the PHIL ID is an official government-issued ID that can be used in transactions. The PHIL ID can be used to open a bank account, execute money transfer and other financial services in applying for jobs and obtaining government documents. Establishments that refuse to accept the PHIL ID as valid proof of identity will be fined. The PSA said over 100,000 PHIL IDs are already with official courier partner PhilPost, received from printer Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as of May 15. In our business news, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez welcomed the inclusion of workers in the business processing outsourcing sector in the government's A4 vaccination priority list, saying it will further spur economic recovery. Lopez noted that the BPO sector is one of the activities that support the economy amid the quarantine lockdowns. The country is one of the biggest BPO players globally, directly employing 1.32 million people and creating 4 million indirect jobs. Lopez said this is helping the economy and saving jobs and dollar revenue generation, which in turn helps solidify further the country's economic fundamentals and stable credit rating. The Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, has endorsed the inclusion of BPO workers in the A4 priority group, citing huge export revenues reaching close to $30 billion a year. Up next, a town in Ilocos Norte is back to strict MECQ starting today. And Taekwondo Jun Kurt Barbosa is the latest addition to the country's Tokyo Olympics team. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Baraca Town in Ilocos Norte has been placed under Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine, or MECQ, for an indefinite period amid the increasing number of confirmed daily cases in the area. More on this and other news from the provinces from Marita Moahe.
Lockdowns and containment in at least 12 villages in Bacara, Ilocos Norte due to COVID-19 infections prompted Mayor Fritz Gapasin to place the whole town under Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine starting Monday, May 24 until further notice. Bacara has 110 active cases out of the province total 430 as of Saturday. Measures include stricter border control, suspension of public transportation except tricycles, closure of non-essential establishments, 50% workforce for open businesses, and work-from-home schemes. While waiting for the final guidelines from the Office of the Governor, Gapasin appealed to her constituents to cooperate with frontliners to help prevent the spread of the virus. Iloilo City has also been placed under MECQ until the end of the month following a sharp rise in COVID-19 cases. The local government recorded a 290% increase in the daily average rate of cases from April 2021 to May this year. The surge in cases in recent weeks has overwhelmed hospitals, with bed capacity becoming full to critical. As of May 22, Iloilo City has 939 active cases. Meanwhile, the Iloilo City Hall suspended its operations starting Monday to give way to thorough disinfection of its offices and mass swabbing of employees. In Cagayan de Oro City, the vaccination turnout among senior citizens has improved following a slump in the aftermath of the death of 73-year-old vaccinee Zoilo Joaquin Borsillo late last week. Acting City Health Office Chief Dr. Lorraine Neri said they managed to vaccinate 1,314 seniors last week compared to the previous week's 500 inoculations. Borsillo died shortly after receiving his AstraZeneca shot, but a police medico-legal report said his death was caused by a heart attack. Neri said the high turnout can be attributed to the local government's information campaign regarding the real cause of Borsillo's death. As of May 20 this year, Cagayan de Oro has vaccinated over 9,500 senior citizens. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Moahe.
8 members of the bandit group Abu Sayyaf surrendered last Thursday through a localized integration program of the 1101st Infantry Brigade in Sitio Bayog, Barangay Samak, Talipao, Sulu. The surrenderers turned over 3 Garand rifles and 2 handguns and received food packs in return. Sulu native Ibrahim Jul Upi Said joined the Abu Sayyaf group in 2014 after being promised a better life and a steady income. He escaped to Tawi-Tawi sometime in 2016 after sensing that the struggle was senseless but lived in fear of being hunted down. Joint Task Force Sulu Commander Major General William Gonzalez assured UP and his fellow surrenderers in turn that they will get the assistance they need to become productive members of society again. Moving on to world news, U.S. President Joe Biden has signed a law to curb anti-Asian hate crimes that have skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris thanked lawmakers for offering overwhelming bipartisan support to the legislation. They also expressed their commitment to stop hatred and bias against all Americans. The House passed a COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act on Tuesday in a 364 to 62 vote after the Senate voted 94-1 last month. Reported hate crimes against Asian Americans in 16 of the country's largest cities and counties have increased 164% since last year, according to a recent study by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino. An interregional tourism circuit is in the works in the Mimaropa, Bicol, and Calabarzon regions as part of the government's recovery plan for the battered travel and tourism industry. The Department of Tourism said the so-called Center of Fun Tourism Circuit would focus on farm, food, and faith tourism products. In the initial discussions among the regional offices of DOT, the identified provinces were Marinduque, Quezon, Laguna, and Albay. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat revealed the plan during her 2-day visit to Marinduque. Aside from farm and food tourism, the DOT is also developing a tourism circuit for diving and marine sports on the island. The circuit, which involves destinations that have low or no cases of COVID-19, is among the efforts to support and restart tourism safely amid the health crisis. In sports, Taekwondo Jun Kurt Barbosa became the 9th Filipino athlete to earn a spot in the Tokyo Olympics. The former UAAP Most Valuable Player secured a top 2 finish in the Asian qualifiers in Amman after beating hometown favorite Zaid Al-Halawani in the under 58 kilogram semifinals on Saturday. Barbosa became the first Filipino male jin to snare an Olympic berth in 13 years. Meanwhile, Christy Alora settled for the bronze in the plus 67 kilogram division after beating Mokhru Kamilova of Tajikistan. However, she had missed out on a second straight Olympic appearance after losing to Uzbekistan's Svetlana Ozipova in their semifinal match. And in other news, former 8th Division World Boxing Champion Manny Pacquiao is facing Errol Spence in what would be his comeback bout in Las Vegas on August 22nd. This will be Pacquiao's first bout since beating Keith Thurman for the World Boxing Association's welterweight super title on July 21, 2019. This will also be his second straight bout against unbeaten opponent since Spence holds a perfect 27-0 record with 21 knockouts. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Ramping up vaccination, more than 4 million Filipinos have been inoculated against COVID-19 as the country continues to make progress in its fight against the pandemic. Reports of jabs and vaccination slots for sale are now under probe. The government warns that those behind these illegal activities will face the full extent of the law. The Philippine Statistics Authority warns establishments accept PHIL IDs in transactions or face penalties. And another chance at gold, a Filipino Taekwondo Jin clinches a spot to the Tokyo Olympics. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change.